Swiss scientist Jean Piaget is considered by many to be the father of cognitive development. He began his career by working with Binet, developing IQ tests. During the process, Piaget became more interested in the errors children made, and he noticed patterns in their errors and was interested in examining the thought processes that led the children to those errors. He later used this information to develop his theories of cognitive development. Piaget is a stage theorist, believing that there are sequential stages that children go through in terms of their cognitive abilities. Each stage is represented by the cognitive operations a child is able to perform at a given point in time. According to Piaget, all children go through cognitive developmental stages in the same order, but not at the exact same age. These stages involve gradual and constant changes of intellectual growth. He identifies these stages as the sensory motor stage, the pre-operational stage, the stage of concrete operations, and the stage of formal operations. The sensory motor stage occurs between the ages of 0 and 2. This stage is characterized by an infant trying to understand the world by physically interacting with it. Infants will typically tend to grab objects, suck on objects, and understand the world by touching and feeling everything around them. The pre-operational stage occurs between the ages of 2 and 6. This stage is characterized by symbolic play. Children develop language and use imaginative play. They show irreversibility, a limitation where they can think about a situation only in one direction, but not in the opposite direction. They also have egocentric thought and have problems with the concept of conservation. The stage of concrete operation occurs around ages of 6 and 7 and goes through to the ages of 11 or 12. This stage is characterized by the ability to use reversibility, think logically, and classify objects. But the thought processes are limited to concrete operations. In essence, children at this age cannot think about abstract terms such as fairness or justice. The final stage, the formal operation stage, occurs between the ages of 11 and 12 and continues on through adulthood. This stage is characterized by complex reasoning and problem solving, as well as the ability to think abstractly. This video will focus on the pre-operational stage. The pre-operational stage is subdivided into 2 stages: the preconceptual period, which occurs between the ages of 2 and 4, and the intuitive period between the ages of 4 and 7. In the preconceptual stage, language or a system of representation is developed. Piaget referred to this as the symbolic function. In the intuitive stage, the child begins to solve problems but cannot explain how they solve the problem. In the intuitive substage, there are several limitations on a child's thought. One of the most researched limitations is the lack of conservation. Children at this stage are unable to understand that a given volume or mass remains the same regardless of its shape or the container it's held in. For example, if you poured 6 ounces into 2 similar cups, the child realizes that both cups contain the same amount of fluid. If you then take one of the cups and pour the 6 ounces into a taller, thinner glass, a child will typically say that the taller glass has more. Who have mastered the pre-operational stage, they will tell you that both glasses contain the same amount of liquid and be able to explain that this is the case even though the containers are differently shaped. Here, despite the tall glass and the shorter glass holding the same amount of fluid, Brendan, who is 3 years old, will point to the tall glass as having more fluid than the short glass. However, when the same question is asked of Nick, who who is 6 years old, he will say they both contain the same amount of fluid and explain why. Another characteristic of the preoperational stage is irreversibility. Children at this stage are unable to reverse operations due to their lack of logical reasoning. Here, Brendan, who is in the preconceptual period of the preoperational stage, so he'll be unable to reverse operations.
How old are you, Brendan? 3. Do you have a brother? What's his name?
Nick.
Nick. Does Nick have a brother?
In comparison, Nicholas is in the intuitive period of the preoperational stage, so he has developed enough logical reasoning skills to reverse the operations.
Nicholas, how old are you?
5.
5? Do you have a brother?
Yes.
What's his name?
Brendan.
Does Brendan have a brother?
Yes.
Alright. And who's his brother?
Me.
Although Piaget's research has made many contributions to our understanding of cognitive development, Piaget has been criticized for his small sample size, as well as primarily studying his children and the children of his friends. So therefore, the sample may not be representative of the entire population.